Hello, my name is Carson. I am a Star Wars-aholic. It has been 48 hours since my last Disney Plus screening, much to my dismay and much to my trying to have given this up. It is not my fault. My co-host here, Paulo, I watched 10 minutes of Andor. I said, I watched it, I turned it on, and I turned it off, and I said, nope, this is it. This is where it stops. I don't need to watch the show. I don't care about it. And yet here we are. I have just watched all 12 episodes of Andor. It's all back. Paulo, why are we talking about Andor today?
Well, first of all, I'm really pleased and honored to be your enabler, especially on this one, because, I forced this out of you because I think Andor was really, really good, and that's the short of it. Like, I just wanted to. I also feel like this is a bit of support for my love of Rogue One, and I really wanted to hit you with that as well during the recording. So those are the main reasons. But like, in all seriousness, I thought this was probably the best chance for you to not complain as much about a Star Wars show. And I was really curious as to what you thought about probably the best Star Wars content that's been released since the prequels.
Well, I'd say Mandalorian Season 1 was pretty good.
I don't mean to overlook The Mandalorian at all. I kind of don't count it just because it's also good. But I do feel like Andor is better. For different reasons.
I didn't hate Andor. I didn't love Andor. It's probably a bad enabling because it will likely be just good enough for me to watch the next Star Wars Disney Plus show, but not good enough for me to genuinely enjoy it. So I have because we didn't talk about Kenobi, we didn't talk about Mandalorian Season 2 or Book of Boba Fett, I'm probably going to launch into random complaints about those shows just because we're talking about this. I did enjoy Andor more than those, but there's certain Disney hallmarks that kind of hold it back and prevent it from being that good. I would say in general, the thing that annoys me the most about Andor is I didn't hate it, and that seems to be what counts as good enough these days. It's like my expectation for a Star Wars show is for it to be bad, and if it's not, it's like, oh, that's pretty good.
I feel like this is a very specific Carson thing, though. Granted, if you go on Reddit and like look at the Andor subreddit and everyone's calling it like Quentin Tarantino-esque, I wouldn't go that far. But I don't know, man. I loved it. Like the whole, like from beginning to end. I don't know. I don't think it was just good enough. We'll get into this though. I'll let you nitpick first, and then I don't know. I'll react to your negativity.
So I do want to like chunk out the season into different sections, because one thing that I actually did enjoy about it is that it had these kind of like, these 3 episodes were about one thing, these 3 episodes were about like a different thing, and there's like, it's almost like sub shows within the season. And I liked some of those more than others. But before I get into that, I kind of wanted to just talk about like in general Disney Plus. Mandalorian Season 1, I genuinely enjoyed as just a TV show on its own. It reminded me of the old like 1960s Sergio Leone movies, which is certainly like an inspiration to it. It was just like, here's a character, here's supporting characters you don't know about, and it's just a good story on its own. Everything that I hated about the shows that came after that, Mandalorian Season 2, Book of Boba Fett, Kenobi, is it's really just like, oh, people are paying attention to Star Wars again. Now we have to cram in every reference and every character and everything you know about. And they got away from, here's just a decent, not even a good, just a decent story that's about some people doing a thing in the Star Wars universe. What I liked about Andor is that it was closer to Mandalorian Season 1, where it's like, yes, we did know the Andor character, but other than that, we don't know I think, well, I guess Mon Mothma, but you don't really know many of the characters, and it kind of just allows it to breathe and saying, here's an adventure that these characters are going to go on. You're going to meet some people. You're going to do a thing. This could have been a non-Star Wars show, and it would have been just as good. Like it can stand on its own. Again, some like Disney things that annoyed me with some of like the sub shows that were underneath it, but in general, I would say what I liked about it is it was just focused on the characters doing the thing that they were doing, and there were few, if any, cameos or like characters shoved in. I was fully expecting at any point like Vader to show up or the Emperor to show up, and it never happened. And I was very delighted that I didn't have to deal with any of that.
Yeah. Well, there was like absolutely none, actually. There was like, unless you count Melshi, who he meets in the prison. Spoilers, by the way. Who's like a really small side character in Rogue One. I don't know if you remember particularly. You probably don't.
I was wondering if there were like more of that throughout the series, because they kept like throwing out these names of characters, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if this was like some person who was in half a screen of A New Hope or something like that.
Yeah.
And they probably could have been, and I didn't care. Like it didn't. There were certain parts of Rogue One where like even if you didn't know who the characters were, like for example, C-3PO and R2-D2 show up for half a screen, and it's like just completely distracts from what's going on in the story just to give a cameo. And it's like, okay, if there were cameos and characters in these ones, I didn't know it didn't distract from the story, so fine. Good enough cameo for me.
Yeah, exactly. But okay, you know what? I'm gonna leave C-3PO and R2-D2 alone, because I don't want to go too far off topic. But yeah, like Andor, definitely one of the main things that I've been like praising it for is that, like, literally, if they didn't say things like Empire or Palpatine, like the Emperor or whatever, stormtroopers, like it couldn't pass as not Star Wars show, and it's just as good. And like the tiniest little cameos, like I mentioned, Melshi was probably like literally the only character that's in any other Star Wars thing aside from Andor.
Well, there's also Saw Gerrera. But kind of it wasn't needed, but it wasn't distracting. Like it fit in enough of the story.
Yeah, but see the thing about like, so those two characters in particular, Saw Gerrera, Melshi, I feel like they do it, or they're chosen, and it still makes sense. Like they're in the show, and it makes sense in the context of what's happening. Like it's not a cameo just for the sake of a cameo. And I think the only other thing, probably Book of Boba Fett did that maybe one time in the whole series. Whereas like it worked really well in Andor. Like Saw Gerrera is like cool, I guess. He's not anything special, but it's interesting to see just that who he is from like previous stuff. It just adds a bit. Like it's like an extra cool thing. Like it's not the focus of the cameo, just for him to be there.
Yeah, it was toned down enough. It was a bit distracting that Saw Gerrera, like I think Forrest Whitaker has changed so much since he did the Rogue One role. Even though that was only like 6 years ago, it felt like it was almost a different character, or he was like at a certain point. I almost thought, is this Forrest Whitaker, or did they get someone who's just acting like Forrest Whitaker? I didn't check, but I'm pretty sure it was actually him, but it kind of felt quite different. I actually don't know who's Melshi. Who was he in Rogue One?
So sorry, and I don't I keep saying his name just because I remember it, but he's really like the smallest part in Rogue One. He's one of the, like when they attack the Scarif base, like one of the soldiers that go with them initially. He's like the leader of the grunts, basically, like the rebel grunts. And
I'm assuming he's the one who escaped from the prison with him.
He's the one who escaped from the prison with Andor. And I actually thought there would be like a few more people from the prison that would be like recognizable from Rogue One, but I think it's just him, because like one guy in particular who was like one of the black guys. But he got shot like immediately during the prison break. So I was like, oh, I guess it's not who I thought it was. I
like that idea where it's not just like, here is, because what I don't like about prequels sometimes is, you know, you have all the characters that they know in Rogue One, and it's almost like everything that those characters were is wrapped up by a nice, neat little story like this. Like it's almost more interesting if you're like, okay, here's one character and here's how he met that person. Here's a second character, and then in Rogue One, it's like, okay, you have these 7-8 people that you know from all these different adventures. I think that was one of people's like biggest complaints about how they wrapped up Revenge of the Sith. Of like every character goes to where they are at the beginning of A New Hope, and it's just like, oh, they're going to stay there for 17 years. So I do like that there's a little bit of room for them to breathe, and I know they're doing a second season of this, but it almost like I wish they didn't do a second season, because it was a decent job of doing a prequel where you know where the characters are going to end up, and now if you do a second season, they're even closer to where they're going to end up at the beginning of Rogue One, and it's like you don't have a lot of room to breathe. Because, for example, the last episode, there's this big suspense around like, oh, are they going to catch Andor? Are they going to kill him? And it's like, well, no, they're not.
Well, yeah, I mean, I have an issue with that as well, but more so about the timeline. Like, I would love for them to do this for several episodes. Like, the only issue that I have with that is that I feel like the post-credit scene at the end of the season finale, it kind of ruins that, and it really limits what they can do, which is unfortunate because this is one of the best streaming shows, like one of the best Star Wars streaming shows aside from Mandalorian, and like they've really limited it because again, spoiler alert. But the post credit scene at the end of the season finale is basically it reveals that what they were working on in the prison were like parts for the Death Star, and the Death Star is pretty much just like it's about to be completed, really. Like it's just they're putting the finishing touches on it, or at least that's what it looks like. And if you're thinking about the time between Andor and Rogue One, so essentially when the show is going to have to end, like they're just discovering about the Death Star because of I don't know, the pilot, whatever happens. But they're just discovering about the Death Star in Rogue One, whereas here at the end of the first season of Andor, it's like about to be completed already. So like I don't know how far you can stretch that, because I would really like to see like more of the same, like to see this story develop. But like I said, they put a pretty hard cap on it, I feel like, with that post credit scene.
I was curious as to why that post credit scene was there, because I was watching and I was like, it had this sense of suspense to it of like, oh no, they're going to be building a space station. What's going to happen? Like, well, like, you're not leading to anything. You're not like teasing anything. Like we know exactly that's happening. So it's like, again, again, shouldn't bother me, but it's like, why is that there? What are you trying to, what emotion are you trying to draw out of me here?
I know what that is the emotion that they're trying to draw out of you. But yeah, that's probably the biggest issue that I have with the whole series, which is like, I mean, it's fine. It's more of a production thing than a story thing. Like the story itself and everything, like I was sincerely surprised as to how they made probably the most like bland character from Rogue One into like someone that I cared about and was invested in.
But I think that's almost why they're able to do things, because if you make a story about Luke Skywalker after Return of the Jedi, or you do these famous characters, like those characters are already fleshed out. There's not much you can do with it. Like if you want to make an interesting story, you have to give us a character that we don't really know much about, and you have room to create a story. So I also did not care about Cassian Andor after Rogue One, mainly because I didn't like Rogue One or much of the stuff that was in there. But in looking back on it, it's like, okay, I hope they do more stories with characters I don't know about that are from like different time periods, because maybe they can have a little bit more room to breathe and actually build stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, to add, like, to tack on to that, like, it's not so much that his story wasn't fleshed out, because yes, clearly it wasn't during Rogue One, but it's more so just like Cassian Andor, especially in Rogue One, and even a little bit through the Andor series, at least in the beginning, he's kind of just guy, right? Like sure there's you have like his backstory and whatever explored a little bit, which there actually one little gripe about that one as well later. But it's he's just there's nothing too like special about him. But I mean, again, it didn't matter in the end, for me at least.
All right, so I wanted to go through each of the kind of what I would consider 3 sub-seasons that are underneath the show, which is first 3 episodes that take place on Ferrix, the next 3 episodes that are on Aldani, and then the 3 episodes that are on Narkina 5, which is like the prison planet. Some of these I liked more than others. The first 3 take place on a planet called Ferrix, where it's, I don't know how you describe it. It looks like similar to Tatooine, where it's like an outer rim planet, not like a desert or anything, but
it's like where wait, sorry, question. When Saw Gerrera shows up, is he on the same? No, he's not on the same planet.
He's on some
He's
other
not
planet.
on Ferrix. Yeah, because the planet where they go to find Saw Gerrera in Rogue One, Ferrix looks like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember the name.
I only remember the name. Well, I don't know if you're talking about the Saw Gerrera planet, but I'm only remember because I'm looking up the episode names right now.
No, I'm talking about the Saw Gerrera planet.
Okay. I'm half sure that it's a different planet, but to be honest, I'm not entirely sure. Here's another little gripe about this thing is this show was made cheap, and you can tell. This is not something that bothered me because it's kind of one of those things that feels funny in the context of it being a Star Wars show, but like, for example, very few aliens. They're almost all human characters. All the planets kind of look the same because they're probably shot in the same location to save money. And so it's one of these things of like, in the context of what you can do in the Star Wars universe, it's like, that's very coincidental that all these planets look the same and all the characters are humans. But I don't mind those things.
It's kind of funny. I guess like Disney executives and the writers don't really listen to what people are saying about the shows. Like the one thing that people have been asking for, I mean, maybe not everyone, but a lot of people have been asking for is like, do something a little different. Like, doesn't all have to be laser swords and X-wing and stuff like that. And they finally do it, and they make it like the least, like the smallest budget show that they've released. And it still turns out to be the best one. But yeah, I get what you're saying. But in a weird kind of way, I feel like it worked because of like the context of the show. Like it's kind of like gritty and grounded. Like it's fine. It doesn't look like there's no flash or anything really, but it works with the like kind of the theme or the focus on the like the rebellion. So I mean, yeah, that's fine.
So for this first subseason on Ferrix, we get introduced to Cassian Andor, and within the first 10 minutes of the show, he shoots 2 people in cold blood, which I found as both entertaining and kind of bold by Disney to just have your main character go around murdering people all the time.
He does this multiple times too.
Yeah, no, like I thought that was going to be kind of a shocking moment where it's like, oh, he did that, because like he faces the repercussions of that in a couple episodes after. It's like, oh, you kill somebody and now like you're attracting the attention of all these people and people are after you. But it's like, no, Disney really didn't weigh in on like that was a bold thing. They kind of just kept killing people all the time. Well, not coincidentally, you don't really see anyone die. You see someone point a gun at them, a sound happens, and then they fall over, which I thought was kind of...
Or it's like blocked by something, like something's in the way, so you can't see them actually like point a gun in a guy's face and like blaster him in the head.
Yeah, it was kind of... I don't know, because these shows are for children, and like they're kind of just showing, like they're not really at any point saying that it's bad. They're just kind of letting their characters go around kill people, and I get that they're rebelling and this is a little bit more adult focused, but it's like...
I feel like this one was for man children, not quite children.
Sure. But children are gonna watch it. I'm
not going full adult, I'm just saying man child.
But But in general, I didn't care about much the first 3 episodes. Like, we got a little bit of introduction to Mon Mothma. We got the ISB, which is like the Empire Security Bureau or whatever. I like generally the setup, but I didn't really care about any of these characters. The main kind of villain guy for the first 3 episodes, guy named Cyril, he seemed like he was part of the reason why I turned it off after 10 minutes the first time, because we get introduced to him and he's like, I'm Mr. Serious. I'm going to go get the bad guys. And I was like, okay, this guy's boring. At the end of the 3rd episode, he gets like defeated, and like the last shot of the show is them having a shot of his face where he's like, oh my God, I screwed up. I did all these wrong things. I like, borrowed, like did like subverted what my protocol was. And I was like, oh shit, they're going to have an actual arc for this guy. He doesn't have any character development for the rest of the season, which was, in my opinion, a really big missed opportunity. Because I really thought that he was going to develop in some way, or us learn about him, but it wasn't really.
It kind of just straight shifts to Dedra, who's the ISB, like Empire intelligence lady, who is granted a more interesting character, and she's actually kind of fun to follow. And then Cyril just like wanders around as an incel for the rest of the show.
I am glad that they made the ISB like actual humans, because I think the tendency that, especially if we talk about Kenobi, the villains are just like so over the top of like, oh, we're the Empire, we are evil, we are bad in every way. And it's like, these just seemed like people that were in charge of security for their large empire, and they were doing their jobs, and they were like, they weren't overly evil. And I appreciate
they just work in an office. Yeah.
The main guy who was in charge of the ISB, I forget his name, but he's like the older guy. I appreciated his performance because he felt believable.
Yeah.
They of course had like the one other, I don't know what you call him, lieutenant or captain of the ISB, who was like kind of evil, like over the top, angry for no reason. But other than that, I did appreciate the ISB as a whole.
Yeah. The first 3 episodes, actually, going back to that, the one big one minor complaint, I guess, that I had is, and I don't know if they're going to revisit this in the next season, but the whole thing starts off because Andor is looking for his sister, like his long lost sister, and he brings it up in the first episode, and it's never mentioned again, like not even in passing. Like the whole thing starts off, like his whole story starts off because he's looking for his sister, and like that's it. After the first episode, it just becomes him like on the run because he murdered these 2 guys, which is fine. Like I liked the story, and there were some interesting flashbacks about him growing up. I'm assuming with one of those, one of those kids was his sister. I'm not sure which one, because it's never made quite clear. And also, I don't think there were subtitles for those scenes, like those flashback scenes, and they're speaking in a different language. I don't know if you had the same experience.
Yep.
So I guess they purposely made that a secret as to what they were saying. But yeah, like after the first maybe 2 episodes, there are no more flashbacks, no more sister. It's literally just like Andor on the run, which was strange, I guess, like a kind of a strange choice, but I suppose it'll come back later.
The other thing I caught in an interview with one of the writers, so you know how he calls himself Clem in like one part of the show? Apparently Clem is the name of his adoptive dad who saved him from the planet.
Yeah.
Which I never caught at any point while maybe I wasn't paying attention, but I was like, oh, there's a reason for these things. And it just, it felt like some things were glossed over that they were trying to set up. And maybe, as you were saying, like that's on purpose because they want to set that up for season 2. But it's like, I don't know, you could have connected some of these things a bit more.
Well, that one was kind of wrapped up completely in the first 6 episodes, I think. Like there were flashbacks as well about him and his adoptive father, Clem, and it kind of shows how like I don't know how the relationship was, and then how he died, or like because he got killed by stormtroopers because of some stupid Empire thing. So that one I think you just
I
missed or
remember
didn't
his
care for.
adoptive dad and him, like the flashbacks to him dying. I just don't remember his name being Clem. So if that was
Oh,
something I
okay.
was supposed to be catching, I didn't catch.
Yeah, it's very briefly mentioned. Like they call him that maybe once or twice. Actually, I think maybe even in the first flashback when they first find Andor on that like planet with all the Lord of the Flies kids.
Mm.
Um, she just like his mother or adopted mother calls him Clem really quickly, like Clem, we gotta go, and that's it.
It's entirely
Uh,
possible I was not paying attention very well. So I'm not going to blame that
it
one on Disney.
it was also the first few episodes that you were like planning not to continue,
Yeah.
so that's fair, I guess. Um, but yeah, and that's another thing. Like that reminds me of another thing about the whole show in general. But like it doesn't really spell things out, um, which is crazy different. I feel like from any of the other Star Wars shows. I mean, it still has its moments, obviously, but I'm thinking I'm jumping ahead a little bit here. But there's a scene at the very end where Mon Mothma is talking to her husband because she's having like money trouble or
Mm-hmm.
like her she it's something like if she gets audited by the Empire, they're gonna find out she's like supporting the rebels or something. So she starts like she knows her driver is spying on her, so she stages this whole conversation with her husband about like, oh, you're gambling again, blah blah blah. She's pretending to be mad to like kind of take the heat off her. And it's not like it's never really called out specifically that that's what she's doing, but you kind of just have to figure it out. Which I mean is interesting and I feel like different for what Disney normally does. Whereas like normally they would just be like, she would have a scene after that conversation, like, okay, I did it. They're not on to me anymore. They think he's gambling and something like that. But yeah, the whole show is littered with that, which is pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, no, I noticed that scene as well, and I actually did appreciate that. Second subseason of the series is them going to a planet named Aldani. This subseason is what kind of annoyed me the most.
Really?
Because it's lazy writing that has missed opportunities. So Andor escapes this first planet. He's been taken by Stellan Skarsgård to this other planet where he says, here's your group of people that you're meeting with, and you're going to plan a big heist with the Empire. A pet peeve of mine, whether it's right of me to have this pet peeve or not, is when action scenes are going on, I want to understand the logistics of what's happening. And that's maybe that's hard to do when there's a lot of things happening and whatnot and stuff going on. But when you have 2 full episodes to set up what a heist is going to happen, and then still during the heist, I have no idea what's happening or what the consequences are, what the plan is, that annoys me because it's a huge missed opportunity. For example, they're split off into separate groups. There's like the female leader who's at a certain point who has like a go, no go decision, it seems. And then she seems to have a moment of like, are we going to go ahead? Like, you know, she's delaying or something. I should understand what the stakes of that situation are. Because if, you know, what is the thing that she's about to do? Is that part of the plan that will screw up the other people if she doesn't go? Will they be safe and they'll simply call it off? It's like, when you've spent 2 full episodes of them like walking through things, you could have just had a moment and, you know, explained that, you know, hey, she's going to practice this thing because this is the important thing that triggers off the mission. But instead, you have no idea what's going on, and it's completely driven by, you know, the zoom in and the suspenseful music of like, oh no, what's going on? It's like, I don't know what's going on. You need to explain to me what's going on. And so that heist annoyed me less so because, like, if it was just an episode where it's like they went straight into the heist, I would have understood that it's like, okay, you can't always like set up the content like that. But like,
Mm-hmm.
they spent 2 full
They
episodes.
built it up.
When you think about what they talked about in those 2 episodes of the logistics, none of it actually mattered. Like, they talked about like getting a train on the tracks or something. They talked about like them marching up to the doors. None of that was at all useful information to know going into the heist. They could have simply just like put different information and it could have made it a lot better.
Yeah. I mean, I'll actually agree with you a little bit on that one. Like the 2 episodes that they spent building up the heist, which is like it's kind of essentially hyping it up for the viewer. But yeah, it didn't really make like they were hinting at things like, oh, they're going to be in costume, like they have to practice pretending to be a stormtrooper, like this is how a stormtrooper acts, like or whatever, like an Empire soldier, whatever. Um, so you have to act like this, you have to kind of give off this vibe, and then but like the different pieces of the plan, there's never really that moment where in other heist things, like it just they run through the plan clearly, like, oh, this is what we're gonna do. um and I mean, I think it's fine because I feel like the focus of that part was kind of him kind of having to work with other people, and it was more about like the tension between the group, which is fine. But like if there's not a lot of either thing, then it's kind of just like build up with no, I mean, with a okay payoff at the
But
end.
I completely agree that like the focus of those episodes is how he's connecting and like communicating with those other people. But you can absolutely do both. And like there's
Yeah,
good
yeah.
examples of this, like Seven Samurai. I spoke about this on the podcast before. Like they have a big action scene at the end and they walk around the camp and they explain everything. So it's like you understand the tension of what's going on. But like them walking around the camp, it's about the conversation that they have. There's movie Ronin. I forget the main actor's name, super famous guy, Robert De Niro. The
Yeah.
Robert De Niro action movie, and like there's a part where he's talking about like other people with the plan, and you can kind of understand like the dynamic between the two, and they're having conversations that don't have to do with the logistics, but by having the actual conversation be about the logistics, it also helps you. So I felt like they could have done both. Like you could have had the connection and the relationship with them and
Mhm.
help me understand the mission, as opposed to just completely relying on someone making a face and having music to say, oh, you're supposed to feel this way. Like, don't tell me what I'm supposed to feel. Make me feel something.
I mean, I like near the end of the latter half of the heist. Like, I think the first little bit about when they're executing the plan, fine, it's not really explained, and you're kind of just along for the ride. I'm okay with that, mostly because like I feel like the you get the general idea. Like we're on the clock. We have to get out of here because we're using a meteor shower or whatever to escape. And like this is going to be the cool part. And then I think they're demonstrating a few other things in the middle of the heist. Like, okay, um, we're doing bad things, which like to fight a bad empire, which is another theme throughout the series. Like them taking the imperial officer's family hostage and like maybe murdering them too, um, and stuff like that, and just like I don't know, killing prisoners, whatever. Um, I think just that leading up to the final like escape or getaway is kind of more of the I don't know what you're supposed to be interested in. But I mean, it's fair. Like it's a fair complaint. I still enjoyed it quite a bit though. It also did demonstrate like the even the aftermath where the like that scholar kid who was writing his manifesto or something, like him kind of setting Andor down a path of like caring about things, and also him murdering that other guy who was like an ex-con. um just like continuing to develop his journey, I guess.
I
I don't
did
know. Is
appreciate that they killed the characters off, because it added a little bit of a weight to his journey, that it's like
Yeah,
in Rogue One, when you meet him, he's like a very cynical person. I think he even like murders someone in cold blood in the beginning of Rogue One as well.
Rogue One.
And
Yeah.
so it's like you kind of understand where he's coming from, because all these people that he'd known has been killed or like were lying to him. And so like you kind of see where that cynicism is coming from. So I did appreciate the fact that those people died. The
Mhm.
one ex stormtrooper that was part of their group, he kind of just like dies off camera, or like it's like, okay, maybe you should have a little bit more weight to that death, but I didn't mind that part. I just thought that the heist itself was rather boring and
Mhm.
could have been executed a little bit more.
Yeah. I also thought it was very convenient in the middle of the heist where the higher up Imperial guy has like a heart attack, um, while they're in the middle of a standoff, like with the guards and everything. That was kind of random to me. But hey, I'm still on board. I don't care.
Yeah, that wasn't the part I didn't like about it. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
The third subseason is the part that was my favorite, which was the prison scene. So basically, Andor escapes and then for some reason gets arrested again, sent off to some prison planet. This for a while, and I actually read into this a little bit. Like, I thought there was probably some non-Star Wars TV show that was written. Somebody wrote a sci-fi TV series that was about 10 episodes of being on a prison planet like this, that they just kind of stole and said, okay, we're just going to throw this in here. Because it actually felt like an original idea that was created for something, and then they, leveraged, because it felt completely non-Star Wars, non-like Andor, completely different setting. So I really like that. From what I read into it, that wasn't the case, is that they simply wanted to have like a few prison episodes as part of it, and then they tried to go for as different as possible. I don't want to give too much credit to the writer, because apparently the guy who wrote those episodes was the showrunner of House of Cards, who apparently knew what Kevin Spacey was doing behind the scenes and just ignored it and kind of let him get away with it.
What?
So apparently not a very good guy, but is now writing for Disney, and I'm sure he's a good writer and not a good person.
Oh my God, that's like me reading Kanye's tweets now. That's the that's the impact that you've just had on me. It's terrible.
It should be worth noting that I probably spent all of about 2 or 3 minutes researching this, but I kind of just I wanted to know who the writer was, because I wanted to know if he was completely different and never did was only doing sci-fi stuff, and maybe he just had this stolen from him. But I guess he was even on real life political campaigns to do speech writing, and then he did House of Cards and a bunch of other political stuff. And this is the first sci-fi thing he's ever done, or maybe there was one other show he was doing. So I guess it wasn't stolen. He probably wrote this specifically for the show. But that aside, I did like the premise. I liked the idea. It was the idea of having a prison where the floor is electrocuted and, there's no guards with guns and anything like that. I quite enjoyed. And what's his face? I'm going to forget his name here.
Andy Serkis.
Andy Serkis, did a really good job in the role. And it was funny that he didn't get off. And it's probably for the best that he did not get off the planet, because he's too famous and he'd have to pop up somewhere else.
Until he returns in Book of Boba Fett season 3 as a prison owner.
Somebody's going to have, this is going to generate some type of fan fiction around how he doesn't get off and gets, because he's the voice of Snoke. And so they're going to write some way that it's this character actually gets bitten by this radioactive animal, and he gets all twisted and with the Force.
He gets bitten by a midichlorian spider. Oh God, I didn't even think of that. I didn't even make that connection. But the prison sequence or saga, I think, is probably the highest point of the show. It was really well written, and I think I don't know, I might make you or some real Star Wars fans mad with this, but I feel like this is probably of any series, any of the new series, Star Wars ones, this show and the prison sequence in particular, I feel like, for me at least, added the most to, or was the only thing of any of these new shows to add to the original trilogy, or even to add to the original trilogy in terms of the reach and the influence of the Empire, and exactly why it was so important that there was a rebellion, right? Because when you watch the original trilogy, it's just kind of made clear Empire's bad, Rebels good, right? They never really demonstrate, aside I guess from blowing up a planet, that why the Empire is bad, but certain things about just how they're sentencing, over sentencing people for misdemeanors to lifetimes in prison for slave labor, and the electrocuted floor, and the whole thing about how I don't know, just the kind of the hopelessness and the the mistreatment, I guess. Just I really felt that for some reason, more so than certain other things where they've tried to make clear like the Empire's bad. Like the prison sequence kind of made it a little more real for me, I guess, and like and that plus the rest of the show, like with the emphasis on the rebellion, with like what Mon Mothma had to deal with, and what's his name, Stellan Skarsgård.
Luthen, something.
Luthen, yeah, like all this, like all these other things, like even including his like how he had to talk about his speech, like why he does what he does, at the end of one of those later episodes. Like, yeah, it really just kind of, it really added to the like the struggle of the rebellion throughout all of Star Wars, which is weird because like going that far back, like this making that mean something a little more to me. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but like I think that especially that prison sequence was like part of why I felt that way, and why I like the show so much.
I agree, and it's maybe less about the prison sentence or prison scenes and more about the Coruscant side in general is what got me in the Luthen. Because they go into a little bit of that in Star Wars Rebels and in Bad Batch of like, okay, these other planets that the Empire is taking over and they're being bad and you have to rebel from. But it is a little bit, similar to A New Hope where it's like, these are the bad guys and they're doing the bad thing. Whereas the Coruscant that they presented and the ISB that they presented, it kind of felt like somebody could just be a regular person and be part of the Empire. That it's like, okay, you are doing this for security reasons and you're trying to just like it's believable that somebody could be part of the Empire and believe that they are doing the right thing. Whereas like anyone who is part of the Empire in like A New Hope, it's like, you're the bad guys.
They don't even have faces. They're all just blank stormtroopers and they're all bad.
Yeah, so I thought that this was their best attempt at creating kind of like a realistic, non-cartoonish enemy. And so when you have them doing the thing, like the prison sentences that were hyped up because of the new act that came in, which I think was trying to parallel the Patriot Act with, US and all that, prison, like unearned prison sentences that certainly mirrors like Guantanamo Bay and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, these things are connecting to real world things where I kind of understand where they're going with this, and it's not just like way over the top.
Yeah, that actually that reminds me. I read this somewhere, and I don't know how true it is, but the internet wouldn't lie to me. Where I think it was George Lucas or whoever originally wrote the Star Wars trilogy had based like the Empire and the Rebellion on the U.S. and Vietnam. Or something along those lines. Like clearly the rebels were kind of the stand-in for the Viet Cong, which is, now that you're bringing up like Patriot Act and Guantanamo Bay, like the parallels there, I just reminded me. I don't know how true it is. Again, I would probably look into it a little bit more, but
it is a bit of like dangerous ground that I feel like they're treading on, because for an organization that is kind of based out of the US, like the heroes are kind of terrorists, and you're kind of saying like terrorists that are justified, and it's like, okay, when you have an enemy that's as cartoonish as the Empire, you can get away with that, but it's like how far can you tread that line before it kind of sounds like you're saying the wrong thing?
I mean, I don't think we're gonna have to worry about. I don't think they're gonna get that nuanced in the later seasons of Andor.
It kind of reminded me of like what we were talking about with Dune, because in the Dune sequels, they start getting into some political territory where it's like, you can't do that, just like the book, because it was a different time back then.
Yeah. It's probably why they also, like in the Aldhani episodes, they had like their blasters looked like just straight up AKs, which is like No, there was like a huge, a lot of it on Reddit, I think, about people taking stills of the Aldhani crew just holding their guns, and they were like, at least make it look like something else, because it literally just looked like an AK.
Like the Rebels or the Empire?
No, the rebels, like
Hmm.
the heist crew. There's like one or two of them that looked like they were holding AKs. And people were complaining about that, which is like the smallest thing. Because if you think back to like Han Solo's gun and like all the other ones, they're like actual World War II guns, just mocked up. Anyways, I digress. But yeah, prison sequence, best one.
And then there's the ending, which I just didn't care about at all.
When they broke out?
No. So the prison sequence is great. And then they go
Oh,
back
okay.
and there's the exciting conclusion where you're going to see what happens to Andor. Will he make it? Will they catch him? And of course he's going to make it. They avoided so well for the rest of the season not having some like typical Disney over the top speech. And then they had to end it on like a big over the top speech from his mom. And that kind of, I was like, I didn't care at all. But it wasn't enough for me to hate the show. It was just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I mean the last few episodes, I think it's tough because the prison saga ended on such a high, that it's tough to keep that going. And like the I feel like the relationship between him and his mom, so like the whole point of him coming back to see his mother, and I guess rescue his friends. Those relationships weren't really developed that well, or maybe not a lot throughout the first few episodes. So it was more so just him, like more of him just trying to not get caught, combined with a bit of like similar prison breakout, like rebellion starting on this planet where there's like no hope of them winning because there's like a battalion of stormtroopers just gonna shoot them. Which I mean, I'm still into that, like the whole like big overblown speech by his mother, like inciting a riot. I was cool with that. But yeah, it was tough to follow up, or to have something that had the same kind of gravity as the previous few episodes.
Yeah, I was still a little confused around why he was there in the first place because like he's not there to save his mom. Like his mom is already dead. He's there for the funeral, and it's like you don't need to come back. Like if they had like similar to Empire Strikes Back, where they're trying to draw Luke to Cloud City because his friends are being tortured. It's like okay, they have one of his friends being like his ex-girlfriend being tortured. Like if you just like tweak these things just a little bit and kind of like make him have a reason to come back. Like he kind of accidentally saves them, but that's not why he's there.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't know. I think they could have tightened up the writing a little bit, but not enough for me to hate the show. I think going back to what I originally said, didn't hate it, didn't love it, and that seems to be what makes a good Star Wars show these days.
For you, you Grinch.
I look forward to season 2 where like every show is a new cameo for a new character that has nothing to do with Andor's story anymore.
Well, I mean, and I know that's like a shot at Mandalorian, right?
They're gonna do it though.
Or which in Andor?
Oh, Andor season 2. It's gonna be full blown Mandalorian season 2.
No. I mean, well, first of all, I don't think the timelines don't line up.
No. I just mean like how they're going to approach Andor season 2 is like it was good because they didn't have much expectations for it and they let the writers do their thing.
Yeah.
But now people like Andor season 1 and so they have to put all the other characters in.
No, if they have any sense, okay, maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but like literally all the good feedback about Andor is that it is like this its own standalone thing. So
That
like
was all the good feedback about Mandalorian too.
Well, yeah. But I mean, I think also what's his name, Dave Filoni, who is the showrunner of Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
I think he also was in. He did some of the animated stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, I think he did Rebels.
Oh, okay. Because I think like part of his plan was always to include that kind of stuff. He always wanted to tie it into the rest of the world, which I mean, fine. Like I said, Mandalorian is enjoyable for different reasons. Like it's more. I don't know what's the word. Not mainstream. Like it's like the mashed potatoes.
I don't mind tying it in with the rest of the universe because at a certain point you have to ask yourself like why is this a Star Wars show, because something like Andor, I was thinking about it at one point, and I'm like, none of my enjoyment of this is the fact that it's part of the Star Wars universe. I just like that there is a show. So why would I ever be excited about a Star Wars show when the Star Wars element is what I don't like about it? So
Yeah.
I do get that even if you have a good show, you do need to tie it into the rest of the universe to kind of build that brand and whatnot. But the beauty of having a world like Star Wars with so many characters that people know is you can start with a story, and then you can say, who is the character that I need to bring in to help tell this story? Whereas it seems like they start with, here's the 10 characters we need to bring into the story. What story do we need to tell that it makes sense for these 10 characters to show up? And I'd rather start with a story and then be like, oh, you want to put in Saw Gerrera and Mon Mothma? Fine, because they make sense for this story. But it just seems like there's too many characters that are around in this timeline for them to not cram in a bunch of people.
Okay, but then when it starts becoming like when he joins the rebellion officially, I mean he's naturally going to be in close proximity with people like, I don't know, Princess Leia. That's probably not going to work for obvious reasons. Let me retract that one. Basically, people that you've seen, I don't know, Wedge maybe, like people like that. That because they can show up and it'll make sense because they're all part of the rebellion, right? So I feel like they can still do it. That's where you have to find the balance, and I feel like they could still do it as long as they don't just fully.
I'm okay with some. I'm okay with some characters.
Yeah.
What I didn't like for Mandalorian season 2, you had Bo-Katan, who was another Mandalorian who has like a different like creed as the main guy. So it's like that makes sense. But then you have like Ahsoka Tano show up, and you have Luke Skywalker show up, and you have all these people where it's like, okay, this is too much. Doesn't make sense anymore. So if they, keep Mon Mothma as a main character, that makes sense. She's already part of the story. She's like part of that. It's like you have enough continuing characters from season 1 that you can develop these characters more without bringing in, I don't know, a bunch of people that don't make sense.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna make the bet that it will be. They won't do that. I think it's gonna be fine. I'm just gonna put that energy out into the world. Please don't ruin it. Please do the same thing. Please do it well for season 2 as well, because I really liked it.
I don't remember who's still around, because I think Rebels and Bad Batch were a little I want to say 10 years earlier, and same with Kenobi, because Leia's quite young at that point, and I feel like Leia would be almost 18 at this point in the timeline. But it's I don't know who's still alive. The people that they could shove in from the Rebels are probably 10 years earlier, but I know in Rogue One, the ship from Rebels, the captain is mentioned and you see it flying towards the final thing. So it's those characters are around.
Which ship? Because I never really watched Rebels, or I didn't really watch any of the animated shows.
So the main Rebels is about a group of 5 or 6 people that fly around on a ship called the Ghost. And the captain is Captain Sendera or something like that. Anyway, so there's 2 Jedis on the ship in the cartoon, and there's something about one of them going off on a time rift at some point. I never watched the last season of Rebels, but I know they get sucked up in time and they're not around, and I think the other Jedi dies. But the main captain, she's around, and I think she has a kid, and the Jedi might be the dad. So there's a little
okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Wait, and how does this tie into Rogue One?
The ship shows up in Rogue One. So at the very end,
from Rebels.
The ship from Rebels at the end of Rogue One, where they're like, "Oh, we have to send all of the Rebel people to attack the sky so that they, the ground one." One of the ships that you see in the corner of the screen is their ship, and when they're on the planet on the ground where there's those pyramids and stuff, there's someone over the intercom that says the name of the captain.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've never heard of this before. Is this another one of the complaints that you? Oh, I just saw it.
Those references I didn't mind in Rogue One. Like the ones that I really hated in Rogue One were the R2D2 and C3PO and like the butt face one where
Yeah.
it's like, let's stop the entire show just to get this reference in. Those ones are more like
Yeah.
background things that kind of fit in. So I didn't hate those.
Okay. Okay, cool. Now I'm seeing what Saw Gerrera looked like in the animated series, and that's
There,
Really?
because I think in the Bad Batch it's like a younger version of him, and he's like much younger than Forrest Whitaker would be.
yeah.
But then I think there's an older version of him in Rebels that looks a little closer to how they did it in the movies.
Oh, okay. Oh, and so the Rebels droid is in like is that Yavin 4 in Rogue One too, apparently?
Oh right, I forgot
Okay.
about that one.
Okay. That's cool. No, I'm gonna give Andor the benefit of the doubt. Please don't ruin it.
This is a random question. You know Grand Admiral Thrawn?
Yes, I know of him.
So the way that Rebels ends is that him and the young Jedi get like sucked into a time rift, and they're just gonna like show up at some point in the Star Wars timeline. I don't know.
Oh,
Ahsoka Tano is talking about him in Mandalorian season 2, and I feel like they're trying to set up this thing of like, oh, when in the timeline are these two people going to show up?
yeah. But see that I think so if they're just gonna fully do that kind of thing, I'm fine with that. Like I'm fine with Mandalorian. Well,
There's a rumor that Disney is trying to reboot the entire Star Wars story so that they would do something with time, kick it off at the beginning of like A New Hope, and just tell a different version of it.
so like what they did with Star Trek when they rebooted, when they rebooted that.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about that. It's so terrible, I want to see it.
I mean, we're gonna watch it.
That is unfortunately true.
Oh my god, you're like ruining my day. Yeah, I hadn't heard that one either, but whatever, I'll watch it. I feel like sorry, going back to like the Thrawn stuff with Mandalorian. I feel I'm okay with that, like because there's throughout Mandalorian the main villain, there hasn't really been one aside from I guess the Moff Gideon, right? And he didn't end up doing that much. And what I do know about Admiral Thrawn is like he's like this super smart like general, and I guess he's like a really strong, and he would make a good like continuous villain for like if they're going to extend Mandalorian for like several more seasons. I mean, I'd be interested in that. I'd watch it.
He's more of a strategy guy than someone who's going to pick up a lightsaber at any point. So that part I would like because he's more of controlling it. Mm-hmm. But I just feel like Disney can't help themselves, and at some point he's going to pick up a lightsaber.
And just completely change who the character is. And okay. Well, I don't know. Is that your big prediction for Mandalorian in the future?
I think I'm going to hate season 3 of Mandalorian. I don't know for what particular reason, but there's a few that could feasibly happen.
Okay, well, I mean that's the odds are pretty high on that one, so I'm not going to take that bet.
I saw the trailer and there was a bunch of ships flying around in action scenes, and I was like, oh no.
Oh, I'm gonna love it. So okay, going back to Andor, does it change your mind at all about Rogue One? You know, considering like that's a rhetorical question. Don't answer.
I actually thought about this though, because not about Andor, but about, you know, obviously I talked a lot of shit about Rogue One, and then Star Wars proceeded to come out with 3 other movies that were even worse than that. And it's like, does the presence of Rise of Skywalker make me like Rogue One more? And I have decided that just because something is worse doesn't mean that Rogue One is better. I'm not going to lower my standards. I should give Rogue One a rewatch. Maybe I was just disappointed with it from what I was expecting at that time and didn't really know how low the expectations for Disney should have been. So I'll try to rewatch it at some point, but I don't think it's something that I will ever say is good.
thinking back, like I can't even remember. Did we have a lot of hype going into Rogue One? I know I was pretty excited, and I think um, I was still satisfied for sure.
Force Awakens was good, and so we were still like, because that was the
Riding
second
on
Disney
that
movie, and like
after Force Awakens.
I remember watching Force Awakens, and I was like, the comedy is kind of weird. I don't know what I feel about this, but I wasn't like concerned. I was like, okay, this is going to be good new shows. And I remember Rogue One, we did the countdown on the fridge. I drew an X-Wing, and we were having big expectations, and it was a war movie. I was interested in a war movie, and I think the director had done like some indie movies before, and I was like, oh, this could be good.
Yes.
And then I watched it, and I was like, oh, this is just a big joke.
Those were the two countdowns that we had, right? Those Force Awakens, and then we did Rogue One, and then after that we didn't do it again.
Yeah, and then we gave up. The Last Jedi was kind of the last straw, which oddly enough, The Last Jedi is probably the only Star Wars movie from Disney that I would want to rewatch.
I still like that one. That and Rogue One. I will die on The Last Jedi hill, especially considering how much of a clusterfuck Rise of Skywalker was.
Yeah, I'm not going to rewatch Rise of Skywalker, but I would rewatch Last Jedi, and just maybe to test myself, I would watch Rogue One again.
I was thinking of, so I was planning to watch Rogue One again after the season finale, and I'm about to do it. We should do it we should do like a whole like review. Sorry, not stealing the idea. Like a retrospective. Rogue One 7 years later. How do you feel?
I'm okay with that. I almost rewatched it, and I instead watched a really weird Romanian movie because I couldn't be bothered.
It's the movie retrospective that no one asked for, specifically Rogue One. What was that Romanian movie you watched?
I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to admit to it while we're recording. I'll tell you after.
Okay, cool.
Do you have any final comments on Andor?
I would highly recommend it. It's a great show. I've been telling everyone that I can speak to that cares that they should go and watch it. So those are my parting thoughts. Again, really surprised about the show and character that I had no intention of caring about or watching. Completely subverted my expectations.
I will agree. I will recommend it. If you're somebody who just stopped watching Disney Plus Star Wars shows after Kenobi because you said this is it, I'm done, go watch Andor, and then I'll just say in advance, don't watch Andor Season 2 because I have no expectations for it.
And I'll see you all in a couple years from now when we talk about Andor Season 2 and give our thoughts on having watched the entire thing.
Well, that's it. Bye.
Bye.